All right, this time we're going to take this brand new for 2021 Tiny Treasures from Michaels. This battery operated gem well, I guess you would call it. It's got a gem or crystal well, and it's a well. And instead of making it battery operated like it is, we're going to make it run off of a power supply so we can integrate it in our village and not have to go up there and turn everything on independently. So, start with some light. This runs on 3 volts. It has 2 basically watch batteries in the bottom of it. And we're going to make it run on a 4.5 volt AC adapter from Limax. At least that's the plan. If you ever have to replace the batteries, if you keep it battery operated, they're LR44s. So I'm going to set those aside. The light that was inside, now looking through the crystals, is a warm white LED. And I'm going to change the color too, to more compensate or be, I don't know what the correct verbiage would be to make it more complementary. That's what I was going for, to the crystal. So they just hot glue these in. You can heat them if you want. I'm not going to heat it. I'm just cracking the glue using a pair of heavy-duty tweezers. So, there we go. There's the inside. You can see the hot glue. Just to show that it is a warm white, let's grab those batteries back. And, see about putting them back in real quick. So, there you go. Warm white. Kind of see it on the table there. I am going to change it to pink, since these are kind of a pinkish crystal. This is a pink LED. Here's the LED tester. Pop it in here. Hope they can tell it's pink on the camera. Those batteries out of the way. It's a pretty easy process to switch the LED out. The harder process is to mount in the barrel jack for the 4.5 volt adapter. You're going to need a resistor because this is only designed to run at the max forward voltage of 3.2 volts. You can go a little bit higher, but you severely shorten the lifespan of the LED. Mentioned that in the previous video on how to repair the Monsters of the Deep LEDs in the rotating aquarium. So I'm going to try and run this right around a 3 volt voltage using a 180 ohm quarter watt resistor. So, and I'm also, it's going to dim the light down a hair so it's not as intense for my my setup. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to desolder what's in here. And the easiest way to desolder is to add solder first so you get better conductivity. That's what I was just doing to the tip. That allows the heat transfer and then it helps separate. So there's that LED. I technically don't need the switch anymore. I'm just going to have it turn on when I turn on my unit. So separate that one. And the switch has a little finger right here that holds it in. So if I pull that finger back, probably have to use these. The switch will pop out. partially out. It's just wedged a little bit sideways. There we go. And there's the switch, which can be used for something else. We're not going to need it. Technically, I don't even need this whole battery compartment that's here. It's just going to be in the way. So, just going to... But I do want to keep this cover on the bottom. So I have something to cover the hole. And also I got a solid base. So there's the spring side. And this is just the flat metal side right here. I need something a little bit stronger than the tweezers. There we go. So, this is garbage. Get rid of it. Now I am going to still use this, even though I technically don't need it, just as a base to hold it, at least at the moment. If I find it's in the way, I will just cut the whole thing out. Next, I'm just going to remove some of this hot glue that's inside the edge. Make it nice and cleaner. It's not going to make it pristine clean. I just want to open it up. There we go. And now let's see if we can get an idea what this is going to look like with the pink LED. It might be hard to see. It's not as bright because this doesn't run it at full power. This is just a tester, so it just tests the light. But I do like the fact that it looks a little bit better because the pink, with the pink, it gives it a deeper pink and it's not as overpowering. Because the cube I'm going to put this in is going to be a small cube and I don't want a lot of light in it. Technically this is the front because you got the snail and the 3 mushrooms, and that's the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this through the back of the well. You could have a little piece of wire hanging off and just having it flopping in the wind and just have the wire run underneath the base. A piece of thin wire. You can get thinner than this too. Just sitting off to the side and then you just plug it in. But to make it more incorporated, which I've done with previous pieces that I've worked on, I just drill a hole through it. So that's the nut that normally holds this on. So the inside of that nut is the outside diameter of this threaded piece. So a finer point pen. I'm just going to try and center it a little bit here. Just going to make a basic reference. I'm just going to darken it. Might be hard to see in the camera, but a little circle. On most of these, because of how thick it is, I don't know if you can see how thick that wall is, you can't put this nut on it. I usually just fill it with hot glue to hold this in, because the majority of the time it's pushing. I mean, you pull it when you pull it out. If you're afraid of pulling this out, you can put your finger on the lip. I've never had one pull out before. So now you can get a drill bit that size and just drill one solid hole, which is usually recommended. I'm going to use a small cutter, drill a hole, and then slowly make the hole bigger. It takes a little bit longer, but it allows me to make sure that my hole isn't overly large. And if I make a jagged hole, that's places that the glue can fill in to help bind to the threads. Also, I didn't want to go spend 10 minutes looking for a drill bit. but most of the time I use something like this so I do have a somewhat jagged hole, so the glue will ooze and grab these threads for a better bind. So, 1 second here while we do this. So there's the pilot hole, and just to give you an idea, right where I drilled, which is about the center, that is the depth, which is about 7/16 of an inch. It's actually pretty thick resin, especially the higher you go. When I get to the bottom edge of the hole, it'll probably be closer to 1/4 inch. So. Might have to get a Mac. Thought this was charged. No, this one's charged. I have 2 for this reason. Instead of swapping the bit, I'll just swap the battery. No, I just gotta put that one on the charger. Alright, here's the hole so far. It's almost to the size. It's still a little bit too small. So I am going to get a drill, since the batteries aren't fully charged on these. So I'll be back in just a second. And we'll drill it out real quick with a step bit, and then finish it off with this before it completely dies. Alright, have the drill and a step bit. And real quick, just to make sure we don't go too big, I need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this might have just been faster off the get-go. Probably should have just done this instead of dealing with those, just for time. Now, because it's a step bit, and this is so thick, this 6th step isn't going all the way through. So I'm using the tip to hone the ledge that it makes on the inside. So that way this will fit all the way in and stop catching. Now, if you want it to stand proud like that, you can, or you can make it flush. I like flush. I think it looks better. So there we go. It's in, and it's, well, the inside edge is flush. This is thick enough that you could technically countersink it. I am not going to do that. Countersink is where you make it so this fat outer black edge is flush with the actual outside of this faux brick. That's great and all. It's the back side. Nobody's going to see it. 1. And 2, if you screw up and punch a hole all the way through, you have a little bit more work to do. And it has a really tight fit, so I'm not going to be too concerned about the, the glue. Let me get some of the dust off of the pink crystal. Because these are all white underneath the paint. Every one I've ever modified, whether it be this one I'm doing now or different ones in previous years. Apparently there's some hot glue sticking up from underneath the crystal. Let's get rid of that just to make it look cleaner. And now I'm going to check for interference. So when I shove this back in, does this interfere with that hole? The display that I'm putting this in, that actually happened to me once. The piece interfered with the hole I drilled. And no, it might be hard to see, the part that's sticking up is not interfering with my hole. So I think this will look good. I have a little zombie gnome village as part of my display, and I think that'll look good for having that in there. I think zombie gnomes would appreciate a crystal well. What I'm going to do right this second is I'm going to check. The long pin should be the hot, which is the center on Limax. So we're going to check to make sure that that is the continuity is the center pin. Which it is. So I touch the outer edge. There's no continuity. Actually, there is through my finger. Let's try that again. So if I touch the outer edge, it's open line. If I touch the center pin, I have continuity. If I can get back on the pin. There we go. So, and then the short pin, if you want to make sure that it's not disconnected inside the plastic housing, I touch the okay, apparently that's backwards. The center pin is the short one. I bought 2 different companies of these and they're backwards from each other. That's why I always check them. Alright, so my mistake, I thought this was the other company. The long pin is ground and the short pin would be hot. So the shorter pin is the center and this longer pin is this chrome bezel on the outside, which goes down in. So the fun part is well, I gotta solder this with it through the hole. So I'm gonna shove this back in. I'm gonna make it so the 2 connections are, as you can see, they're side by side, not up and down. And then we're going to solder it inside here. Now, like I said, this takes a 180 ohm resistor, so you don't pop this LED at 4.5 volts. So we're going to prep this resistor, cut off some of the extra lead I don't need. And I'm going to put it on the negative. So I'm going to cut the negative back. And the negative is the short lead. If you look, there's 2 leads. The longer one, which is the one that the snip's not attached to, is your hot or positive. Bring in some helping hands. Now, of course, you don't have to do anything like this to yours. I just do this so when I flip the switch for my display, I don't have to go around and turn on anything that's battery operated. Only battery operated, except for the trains, because the trains are battery operated. Now my trains don't move. I have opened them up and removed the drive gear. So they're stationary, except for one, which hopefully you'll see real soon. Now I just cut the other lead off of the resistor, so that way it's same size, same length. And now I'm going to tin everything. And tinning is just the process of getting solder on your components prior to installing them. Makes for a quicker and easier solder connection. I didn't burn anything. There's a lot of smoke coming out. That's because there's nowhere for it to go, so it's just filling up the cavity. And technically, yes, the smoke is toxic. You shouldn't breathe it. What I'm doing now is I'm checking the depth so I can fold these leads over. I'm going to be folding them over relatively close to the bottom of the LED. Just going to use the needle nose pliers to hold them so I can rotate. Like so. I'll show you what I'm doing here in just a moment. Because the leads are still too long for the length going through the hole, by turning them into like a claw, so that way I can still have my resistor, and then bending those out a hair, it'll help center this so that the light is more centered of that oval hole and not off to one side. Because I'm not going to have a lot of flex or stretchability. So, helping hands I'm just going to kind of use to help stabilize this. I don't really want to pinch it, so I don't have soft jaws. And it's just to help stabilize this so I can solder with one and hold with the other. I am going to hold with some tweezers. I'm using ceramic tweezers so they don't conduct the heat, and it makes it for a faster solder. Also, you won't solder the tweezers to your project either. Just need to adjust it a hair. I didn't give it enough bend. I'm still off by a little bit, so we'll just try and do some adjustments while I'm in here. Tweezers can be a lifesaver when you're working with small or components that are outside of the realm of your finger. That. Here's a Lee Max plug. Plug it in, like so. just so you can all see, it does say Limax right there, 4.5 volts. There's the crystal. And I'm going to turn off some lights. That. You can see the pink glow. I'm going to glue the bottom back in. You can, there's the LED. I'll turn off the light and turn on the other lights in a moment so you can see where it is. But this is a deeper pink color. On my viewfinder, it almost looks white. So, but you can see that my hand, you can see that it's got a pinkish glow. Here's some white paper. You can see the pink. It's a much deeper pink, which complements the crystals better. It's not as bright because I'm actually running it at a lower milliamp rating than the white LED was being driven. I'm only running this at 10 milliamps, where with the white one, when I checked it on a different one, it was running at 20. So that determines its brightness as well. But that's how you can change this. Now you can make this a 3-volt plug, but because they're so much harder, or a little bit harder to find, just make it 4.5. Because the 3-headed 4.5 volt plugs are a lot easier to find. Actually, almost see, now it looks pink in my viewfinder. But yeah, it's a much deeper pink, and then the tips, it looks a lot better. So I'll plug it. So there's the LED inside. It is not quite as centered as I wanted. You might be able to see it a little bit there, but I bent it to point towards the center. And of course, it's not pointing towards the front. I have it pointing towards the back, so that way it's if there's any hot spots, it'd be on the back side of the crystal, not the front. Another thing you can do is, the crystal is a solid piece of resin. You could drill a small 3mm hole, because these are 3mm LEDs, I should have mentioned that, and then slide the LED inside the crystal, but you'll get hot points but a duller base, and I wanted to try and go with a uniform shade throughout and not have the super hot points because of that. Basically using the whole thing as a diffuser, so that way it's much better. As far as, I really don't have any hot spots looking at it from different angles. If you look at it straight up, you might say there's a hot spot there, and that's about it. But it's very tough to see with the eye. I know the camera picks it up better than what your eye will. But because I have the LED pointing basically at this crystal here. So from the front, there's no hot spots. From the back, there's no hot spots that you can see with your eye. But if you look, you can see that there is slightly more brightness in the low sections, but then also there's less material there too. So next is just to fire up the hot glue gun and put a dab of glue right in here where the 4.5 volt comes through, and then glue this base back on like so, so that way it doesn't shine so much through the bottom, and I have a more solid platform. And using hot glue allows you to maintain the ability to fix it if it breaks in the future. Whereas if you use super glue, you're never going to get it apart again. So that's it on the video. If I can get it into my display and make it look, that cube I'm working on, look good, I'll include that after this. But that was it. relatively short video on changing this from a battery operated warm white LED to a 4.5 volt powered from the Max multi-head adapter as an example display piece, and changing the color to more complement the crystals. All you need, and you can get the LEDs online, eBay is the easiest, it's a pink 3mm LED that runs at 3 to 3.2 volts, so you could technically still run it on the battery if you wanted to. It's 3-volt battery pack. And this is a 5mm barrel jack, the female side. And then the resistors you can get online too. Like I said, that one's 180 ohm, and that's so I can run this at the higher power without burning out the LED. So, and for tools, a drill bit works better than the other thing I was using because I didn't charge them. And a step bit, you can use a little Sharpie and do the little design like I did, or you can just slide the threaded nut over a drill bit like I was doing with the step bit. So for tools, you need a drill bit. Make life easier with the soldering, using a soldering gun or soldering iron, I would recommend helping hands if you have a set. If not, you can hold it or rig something up to hold it. Wire snips, they don't have to be this style, just something to cut it down. Maybe a pair of tweezers or a thin needle nose like Jewelers needle nose pliers. That's what these are from the craft section like Michael's. That's why they're green. Just so you can get in there. Because if you have, fingers, you can see that you can't hardly get 2 in here. So if you're trying to finagle with a soldering iron that's 600-700 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to burn yourself. So anyhow, that was it. I will see if I can get this in my display and get it filmed so you have an idea what it looks like in use. Here it is in the display. It's a little dark, but cell phone's not adjusting to the low light because it's focusing on the fountain or the well. But there it is. You can kind of see the gnome. We'll turn on the light so you have an idea what it looks like. So you can see the gnomes and the zombie gnomes and all that wonderful stuff. Fountains in the back or the well. I might change that, but that is what it looks like. And in person, again, it's not as bright. Unfortunately, cameras pick up all sorts of light and it swamps it out, especially LEDs. And all the background noise you hear is the other houses that are around it doing its thing, especially that one, which is very noisy now. It squeaks a lot, as you can hear. So, but cranes in real life squeak too. So anyhow, there it is in display. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.